Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at 3 different British military map cases. Now I had one of these out recently for the video looking at a recreation of a British corporal serving out in Malaya in the early 1950s, and that sort of prompted me to dig out another couple from the collection and compare them in a video with the idea of comparing them in a video. Now obviously this isn't by no means comprehensive and only covers a relatively short time period from around the Great War through until the end of the Second World War and into the early post-war period. So, as I say, far from comprehensive. We're just looking at 3 particular examples from my collection. Nevertheless, I hope it'll be interesting. Without further ado, we'll get into the main part of the video now and have a look at these 3 different designs. So as said, this isn't going to be comprehensive. We're going to be looking at the 3 different map cases which we have laid out here in a little bit more detail. Great War example here, which was issued to a Captain H.M. Butters, who I need to research. This is a relatively recent arrival. I've not had a chance to research Captain Butters yet, but I do intend to. And then we have an early Second World War example here. Obviously now an issue example. This would have been a private purchase example. Early World War II issue example in the centre here. And then a late war production part of the late war jungle kit, essentially. Map case on the right hand side here. So we'll look at all of these individually, which will show the features which are similar between them and those which changed. And just to mention, obviously with the Great War map case we're going to look at here first of all, this is quite a large example, even though it's designed to hang from the Sam Browne equipment. It's quite large for that really. When on the mannequin or when set up on the equipment, it really hangs quite low and is quite awkward. Not uncommon to see, however. Sam Browne equipment wasn't necessarily the most practical. You do also see map cases of various different designs, some of which can be as small as this one over here. So the size of Great War map cases, officers' map cases that were private purchased, vary quite considerably. This is on the large side for those which are actually designed to hang from the equipment. We'll move on now and have a look at it in a bit more detail. So as already mentioned, this is marked to a Captain H.M. Butters, as you can see there clearly on the front. The fittings here to allow it to attach to the Sam Browne belt, you have a little snap hook which came with this D-ring attached. This would clip onto the D-ring on the Sam Browne belt. That's the idea of it. Attaches at the back here with rivets onto these little Ds on the back. If we turn this round, you can see there is also a hook here, which means that this can be hooked up onto its own strap like that. So it hangs at a shorter distance below the belt, or it could actually be hooked up onto the D of the Sam Browne belt using that hook as well. So that's the features they're designed to actually attach to the equipment. Great War map cases, it's not uncommon to find them with an individual leather strap and a ring to actually allow them to be worn separate from the Sam Browne equipment as well. So you literally just have a leather strap over the shoulder with a ring on it, or a D-ring on it, and then this would snap onto that, meaning it had its own shoulder strap. It was carried separate from the rest of the equipment. Different options that were available at the time. As you can see, this closes down the side here with 2 press studs on leather straps at the side there. Just before we open up the main compartment here, we open up the outer compartment here. You can see there is a large outer carrying compartment here, well, relatively large for a map case. You could carry various folded maps and things in there. If we open up the main body here, various features on the inside. There's actually some interesting writing here, if I can bring this up to the camera. So you have some calculations here, one of which is battalion strength, less sick, 142 minus 32, 110. So some interesting little bits of writing and calculations left on the inside face of the map case there, obviously, where you're actually supposed to attach maps or documents you're working on. And this has clips at top and bottom, as you can see there. And then also elastic, which is in remarkably good condition, as you can see. That's survived remarkably well. Pencil holders or pen holders on the inside of the fold there. And then if we open up this side here, you can see we have a cellulose sheet here which you can clip a map underneath. So you can open this up here and then you have a clip there which would allow you to clip a map sheet in there underneath the cellulose to give it some protection. Then that in itself is protected with this sheet of cloth which goes over the top of there. So relatively intricate design in the way it all unfolds and the various fixtures and fittings you have to attach things inside. Rather nice to have this writing left in there, I have to say. It's a very nice feature. I'm glad that's survived in legible form, which is only written in pencil. And that is, this, I say, one example, snap this back together again, of a Great War officer's map case designed to be used with the Sam Browne equipment, which obviously was the standard for officers at the time, though many would go on use web equipment, to other ranks web equipment to blend in. This is the sort of thing that you could purchase, which would attach onto the Sam Browne equipment. But anyway, a Great War officer's map case, as I say, to a Captain Butters, who I need to research, and there may well be a video on him and talking about this again once I've concluded that research into his service and see if I can find him and find out more about him. Now, moving on now to the early years of the Second World War, we have a map case here. This particular design was manufactured in canvas, as you see here, latterly manufactured in webbing, and then a slightly different design, just slightly modified, was introduced later in the war as well, but all very similar to this. So this covers the Second World War quite nicely. I don't actually have an example of the webbing type, the later webbing type. I should probably pick one up. They aren't hard to find. But this is particularly nice. If I just open up the flap here, we can see the date on this. You can see here, manufactured by Waring and Gillow Limited, and you've just got the date in there of 1940, as you can see there with the broad arrow above. Prematurely looking at the interior there, you can see the stitching and everything on the outside here. It is a fibre board at the back here with a canvas cover riveted on, as you can see, and then it attaches with press studs at the bottom there when you want to close it. The shoulder strap is also made of canvas, doubled over and stitched, as you can see there, and that buckles in using two small buckles on little shapes at the top there, and they have the standard British metal tips on them, as you can see there. The ends of the strap do riveted in place, very similar to British web equipment of the period. Obviously just drawing on those components to manufacture this. If we open up the case here, you can see underneath the flap we have various different pockets and things, so you could hold an eraser, various different pens and pencils in there, possibly another implement. I say I'm not quite sure what you necessarily carry in there. Slightly wider compartment at the end there, and obviously different writing implements and so forth in there, trigraph pencils, that sort of thing. And then we actually do have a map sheet in here, which is an area around Perth, and you can just see Perth in the bottom right there. This is just what came in this when I purchased it. You have a sheet of cellulose in here. I believe this is cellulose, just clipped in place. These little brass clips are riveted in place to the backboard, and they just rotate round to clip that sheet into place, as you can see there. So very much simpler design than we had previously. It doesn't carry as much, it doesn't do as much, but this is as I say, an issue example. And obviously you would carry it on a shoulder strap, you'd open it up, and then you have it there with the flap held out of the way by gravity, and you've got your map there, the area of the map you want to be working on. It's easy enough to unclip this, flip your map over or refold it, put it back in again, and this does give some weather protection. It's very, very simple really. Gives you a little bit of carrying capacity there for some writing implements and so forth, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It carries you a map in a somewhat weatherproof form. So that's, as I say, a relatively early example from the Second World War, 1940 dated. And as I said previously, these are made in webbing as well. You do see them made in webbing and then a slightly altered. So there we are. That's a 1940 dated map case. We'll move on now to have a look at the late war example I mentioned previously. The final map case we're going to have a look at here is, as I say, part of the late war jungle equipment. However, this does also illustrate the small size of some of the Great War map cases. You can see it's not uncommon to find them that look similar to this, with obviously maybe the leather fittings at the top to clip onto a Sam Browne belt. This is just illustrative of the fact the other one we looked at previously really is quite large, and this is typical of some of the smaller ones you'd see in terms of size. This, however, as I say, is part of the late war jungle equipment, so didn't really see service during the Second World War but was used afterwards. It's quite a simple design but innovative in the way it produces a very small map case. You look at the back here, you can see the shoulder strap is just formed from this piece of cord which passes through the eyelets here and then is tied off, just shortened down to the right length with a knot in it there, as you can see. We do have an outer compartment on this design. I'll open this up here. You can see we have an outer compartment there to hold extra map sheets should you need to. And then on the outer face of that compartment we obviously have loops for writing implements there, and then obviously they will be secured underneath the flap so you're not going to lose them, which is a a good feature, and they're easily accessible. You can just open up the outer flap there and remove them. Then the main compartment closes down the side with this press stud here. As you can see, all the press studs are reinforced with a leather washer. You can see that there. So very heavy duty in that regard. It's been reinforced, so no real worry about pulling the press studs through the canvas. It is very thin canvas. We have a feature which obviously betrays this as part of the late war jungle equipment. We have keep mosquito repellent off celluloid. You don't want to get the mosquito repellent on the celluloid, of course. You have a rather nasty reaction and it starts to dissolve the celluloid. And then we have in here the main compartment where you'd carry your map sheet that you're using. This is one long compartment really, so you'd put your map sheet in here, it would fold in three, but then you'd have the entire width of this, so quite a large area of map. In a very small map case, you'd be able to view quite a large area of map, depending on the scale, of course. But as I say, that's quite a nice feature of the design. It's a good design from that point of view. In a small package that you're having to carry, you get quite a nice area you can work on without having to change the map sheet. If we just peel this out of the way in the centre here, you can see this all has still has all the packing paper in here. This is unissued. There's a central sheet of cloth here which protects the celluloid, so that goes over the celluloid, so when the three pieces fold in, obviously when that one folds in, you've then got canvas, this one folds in to close it. You're not having celluloid rubbing on celluloid, so it's not going to score itself or damage itself and scratch itself to obviously reduce the transparency. And then obviously the little press at the top here to open that up, should you wish to put a map sheet in there. So very simple design again. That again, you can see the leather washer reinforcing that there. There is a stamp inside, so I'll do my best to show you that now. If we just bring this up to the light here if I can. This is the manufacturer's stamp in here, and bring the light in here. There we go, you can just about see in there. So I think it's John Morley Company Limited, Company M Limited, I think. We'll get the focus on there if I can. Good All Works, Walsall. So that's the manufacturer's stamp in there, as you can see. Trying to keep all the tissue paper together here. Put that back in there. So there we are, as I say, part of the late war jungle equipment. Little map case, very nice to have one of these in unissued condition. They do turn up that way. So, as I say, just sort of the end of our little story here through to the end of the Second World War and the evolution of map case design. This very, very neat and obviously compact compared to the ones we previously looked at, although you do see examples similar to this as private purchase during the Great War as well, as already mentioned. So not a particularly long video, but hopefully it's a bit of interest nonetheless. I hope you found it interesting looking at those. If you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, then please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can, both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, thank you very much indeed to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. Greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. But that's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.